What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news on the green and gold Green Bay Packers. A happy Monday to all of you watching out there. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, turn on that notification bell. And if you're a returner, I welcome you back as always. Hey, we still may be 2 months away, but it is time to talk about the NFL draft because it's never too early to talk about the NFL draft. College football season's over. Got to give a huge congrats to Indiana. But now you got to look forward to the NFL season. 60 days away from the NFL draft going down. That's what this episode's filled with today. Going to be interesting looking at the Packers mock drafts as kind of more come out, as the Packers do not have a first round pick, at least at time of recording. Maybe they'll make some trade that I don't know about and they'll get them a first round pick. But the Packers are expected for their earliest pick in the draft to be what they currently sit at in round 2 at pick 52. I want to take a look into this and kind of figure out what will be the best position for the Packers to draft. And within that position, who could they possibly take? I'm going to focus on one position group here today, but I know that there are many answers to this question. There are a lot of needs for the Packers this offseason. It is not just one bleeding position that leads the way. Kind of like in drafts before, how, I believe a lot of you wanted the Packers to get a receiver, and no one else. They did do that last year with Matthew Golden, so you don't got to worry about that anymore. But it feels like in this draft, especially not having a first round pick, the options are very open. Should the Packers get an offensive lineman if Elton Jenkins is gone? Should the Packers get a defensive lineman, especially if Rashawn Gary ends up being gone? Or should they move a little more back on the defensive side into the secondary, draft a cornerback in what is a rather thin room? That third option that I just listed is what I'm going to focus on today in the Packers possibly taking a cornerback. It is interesting to note, though, Packers not the biggest fans of drafting a cornerback early. The last cornerback that they drafted earlier than the third round was Eric Stokes in the first round back in what I believe was 2021. And example before Eric Stokes, you have to go back to Jair Alexander. So the Packers don't really draft cornerbacks that early. Over those last 2 picks, I would say Jair Alexander was a phenomenal pick. Eric Stokes, his rookie year, he seemed very phenomenal, but then kind of fell out with the Packers, and now he had actually a very good year with the Raiders this season. So there's always a risk in drafting a cornerback. I kind of view a cornerback as like a receiver, to where the top couple of guys, and you can, a lot of mock draft rankings have like the top 3 to 5. Pretty similar, maybe a little mix and match there. And then when you go below that, the names start to jumble up a lot, and that not all these guys are going to pan out, and that just has to be the case, as unfortunate as that sounds. So let's take a deeper dive into the cornerback position for the Green Bay Packers and look at some early mock drafts that are out. Again, lots of these early mock drafts are usually just round 1 drafts, so I'd extend it to a 3-round mock draft for Green Bay to see the second round pick and what people are believing. So the early mock drafts say this. I picked 3 for this episode. They are by Yahoo Sports, Athlon Sports, and Pro Football Focus. I want to take a look at how many cornerbacks will go before the Green Bay Packers pick. Yahoo Sports has 6 listed before the Packers pick, Athlon with 7, and Pro Football Focus with 8. So it feels like that's kind of the sweet spot, 6 to 8 cornerbacks likely to go before the Packers pick, which again makes it interesting to see, will they even attempt to draft a corner if that many names are gone by their pick. So we're going to look at Yahoo Sports' mock draft in order. They have Mansour Delane out of LSU being the first cornerback taken, followed by Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee, Avion Terrell from Clemson, Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, Keith Abney II out of Arizona State, Keontae Scott from Miami, and then they have the Packers getting Colton Hood from Tennessee. So if you notice something there, 7 cornerbacks named, 2 of them from Tennessee. They have the Packers grabbing Colton Hood. But this is where it gets interesting. Let's go to Athlon Sports' mock draft. They got Mansour Delane and Jermod McCoy as the top 2, just like Yahoo Sports. But then their third cornerback taken of the draft is Colton Hood. Look at the difference there. You got Colton Hood as the 3rd guy taken in this mock draft. You go to Yahoo Sports, he's the 7th guy taken, landing with the Green Bay Packers. Interesting to note on that there. Following Hood in Athlon Sports' mock draft is Avion Terrell, Brandon Cisse, then you got a new name in D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana, followed by Chris Johnson out of San Diego State, and then they do have the Packers getting Keith Abney II as the 8th cornerback selected, a little bit different from Yahoo Sports, who had him as the 5th cornerback selected overall. Now we go to the Pro Football Focus mock draft, where this will be the most names listed, as they have the Packers having 8 cornerbacks selected before they take the 9th one off the board. The top 2 stay the same as the previous 2 mock drafts in Mansour Delane and Jermod McCoy, but they here are followed by Avion Terrell, Brandon Cisse, Colton Hood, the 5th one to go, followed right again by Keith Abney as the 6th cornerback to go, then Keontae Scott and D'Angelo Pons, and they have the Packers getting Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. So you notice 3 different mock drafts, 3 different results for who the Packers would land at cornerback, and even the names above them outside of the top 2, which, that seems pretty set in stone in Delane and McCoy. All these names can be mixed up with one another, which is truly going to make this an interesting draft for Green Bay. So, in my personal opinion, I would like a cornerback, but maybe go the free agent route. I'm just not sure. I just feel like it's so tough to hit on a cornerback because, like I said, not all these guys are going to pan out. All these guys have different skill sets. It's just kind of like drafting a receiver if you were to take a receiver after about, 6 to 8 have already been off the board. So it's tough. It's a really tough decision for the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to dive into it a little bit more, see who the logistical targets actually are, and is cornerback really the best move. But before we get into that, have to give a shout out to today's sponsor, to Ultra Pouches. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. New customers can use code FANARK to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's 15% off with code FANARK. After your purchase, they will ask where you heard about them, so please feel free to support this show and tell them that we sent you. Ultra pouches are designed to improve mental clarity, attention, and productivity within minutes of use. Users report enhanced ability to stay on task, have better decision making, and reduce brain fog. And 90% of customers saw a significant improvement in their overall focus level. So again, feel free to scan that right up there at checkout. Use code FANARK for 15% off to support the show. I appreciate the support that you guys have given all year long. Going back to the show, we're going to take a look at what are the logistical targets for the Green Bay Packers and should they really go for these cornerbacks. So you look at the reasonable names. Actually, let's start off with the unreasonable names. You kind of look at these 3 mock drafts. I know that there will be more to come. And you look at all the names that overlapped with each other that were taken before it got to the Packers pick. Mansour Delane, Jermon McCoy, Avian Terrell, and Brandon Cisse, you can probably just count off because they will likely be 4 of the top 5 cornerbacks drafted. So that makes the pool a little bit smaller. Now you go to the names that could fall to the Packers pick based on those mock drafts, starting off with Colton Hood, which in my opinion seems the most unlikely out of the group. There are lots of power rankings that have him as a top 5 corner in that draft outside of the 4 that I listed earlier. ESPN had an article posted with some of their analysts, some of their writers, kind of giving their top 5 player rankings per position. And Colton Hood was in every single one of those. So I think that he is an unlikely target. If he falls to the Packers, I would really love if they jumped on him there. But outside of Colton Hood, you have Keith Abney II from Arizona State, D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana, Keontae Scott II from Miami, and Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. Those are the 4 names that I'm looking on, and next episode, I'm going to break them down one by one, really looking at what they could bring to a Green Bay defense that had its ups, but definitely had its downs, especially in the late stretch of the season. And now, new defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. What cornerback could possibly pair better with him? This is not Jeff Hafley's defense. Gannon will play a, different defense. You got to be able to relate to the coach. There's a lot more than just a player and his talent and his skill set. You have to see how he'll fit in with the rest of the team. So a big thing that I'm asking, the big question of the day, is drafting a cornerback early the correct move? I still call it early. I know it's later in the second round, but I still call that an early pick. I mean, it's the Packers' first pick of the draft. Let's start there, to say the least. I say yes. I say that this could be the right move. But again, I'm not going to be upset if the Packers go with an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. I feel like there are many needs. So if the Packers don't take a corner, I'm not going to be distraught. I would like if they get one in free agency, though. I do not think that they can stick with the current cornerback room that they have. All due respect to Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, but that just was not getting the job done. I feel like the Packers need a true cornerback 1 because this cornerback room was too thin. That's also the problem with getting a rookie. Could a rookie drafted late in the second round go to Green Bay and fill in the shoes of a cornerback 1 role? Probably not. So I feel like if the Packers draft a cornerback, they still will need to find one in free agency to boost the corner room overall. No disrespect to Keyshawn Nixon, but 14 total penalties on the season, I believe, which was the 3rd most out of all cornerbacks. And he had his highlights. I mean, he definitely had his highlights, but he had a lot of lowlights and, tough position for him to have to jump all the way up to cornerback 1. But you could tell that cornerback room was, just a little bit below average, especially when it got into playoff play and the late stretch of the season. They were kind of getting burnt left and right. So it would be nice if the Packers can find a true cornerback one. Would that be a rookie drafted in the second round? Probably not. But could you get a rookie and then add someone in free agency and really figure out how the room goes from there? That's what I think that the Packers could do. So yeah, that's all I got for this episode. I mean, I think a cornerback is an interesting choice. Feel free to leave down in the comments below if you think the Packers should draft a cornerback. I think it's interesting. But next episode, those 4 names that I listed, I will have one by one, really breaking them down, maybe looking into some film, some numbers, how they performed in college, and really see who could possibly be the best logical choice for the Packers to draft in round 2 at pick number 52. But again, that's all I got for this episode of Packers Latest. I appreciate all the support that you guys have given the show, and I appreciate you for tuning in as always, and go Pack Go.